just as a disclaimer, this title is a little bit of clickbait, so just throwing that out there before we start. Okay. Hey, you crazy kids! It's been a while. I haven't really done this in a while. This what you would call maybe a podcast. And as you can see, this is an audio-only format. At least this time around, I'm focusing more on audio just because it tends to be a lot easier. As far as editing goes, it takes a little less time. I can put more planning into what I want to talk about instead of what I'm going to look like talking about these things in front of the camera. So we're going to see how this goes. This is a completely different style than what I have been doing. If you ever listened to any of my quote-unquote podcast episodes last year, I haven't done them in almost exactly a year. So, and I'm hoping that these episodes can be maybe a little longer and dedicated to some deeper discussion potentially. Maybe a little more scripted, just so that I have something to talk about and I'm not always losing track of things. But hopefully you'll be interested in taking a listen to this, especially today. Today's a more serious topic. And I'm sure you've all noticed that I've been releasing videos pretty sparsely. There hasn't really been much going on over the past couple months. I've released a few things here and there, but not a whole lot, nothing much to boast about. And there is a reason for that, which I'll get into. But I just want to let you know that I am starting to work on more content. And I'm always saying that, but I'm really trying to take things a little more seriously now. Now that I have some time to focus. And the reason why I have time to focus is because I was actually laid off from my job at the end of February. I have been unemployed for the past 2.5 months. And what I was doing in my last job, some of you don't know, I was working in Northern Virginia for a marketing agency that worked a lot with nonprofits and higher education institutions, colleges and universities. And what I did with them was I did blog writing, I did social media management, I got to do some basic website development and project management. And throughout the entire process, I enjoyed my job. It was probably the best job that I've had up until this point. And, up until that point, I guess. And, I saw myself, I thought that I could work for this company for a while. I thought, I could see myself being here for a number of years. And I really enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to record my own videos in the office after hours. My boss was kind enough to give me that privilege. And it was all around a pretty good setup for me. And in the last couple of months of working for the company, my supervisors wanted to sort of roll out a more creative thought leadership type of program. I was fortunate enough to be asked to be part of this because it involved doing some work with video recording and editing and also audio recording and editing. And there was also an idea for a podcast for the company. And I was really honored to be asked to take part in that since they knew that I did this YouTube stuff on the side. And it was just an experience that allowed me to sort of explore my creativity more in the workspace rather than just on my own, when I was making YouTube videos. And I got to do this for a couple of months. And unfortunately, some things happened with the company. They started losing money. And so instead of doing all of this new creative stuff, I had to refocus. Like the whole company sort of had to refocus on, tailoring to our clients and doing the kind of stuff that's actually earning us money rather than focusing on this new creative initiative that we haven't really earned any money from yet. So that sort of took a back seat for a while. And I was kind of bummed out about it. I was really hoping to be able to use my skills on something like that, and also enhance those skills. And unfortunately, towards at the after that, with the company losing as much money as it was, and after a huge hiring spree that happened last summer, it just became too much. So there ended up being at least 4 people who got laid off, including myself, due to the company downsizing. And I thought for a while that I had good job security. I thought, this is a small company anyways, and there's like, I feel like I'm very good at my job, and I thought that I've been here for well over a year, so there shouldn't be any issues. And I mean, even then, with companies that downsize, anybody is up for potential laying off, I guess. So it happens, and I don't hold anything against my boss or my coworkers. I loved all the people that I worked with, and it really was a good experience for as long as it did last. And my boss was kind enough to give me one more paycheck through the middle of March, just to sort of help me, give me some time and a bit of a cushion to do some job searching. And I was very fortunate to have that kind of sympathy. But unfortunately, as much as that did help, job searching is a full-time job. And even then, even living in a place like Northern Virginia, where I'm pretty close to Washington, D.C., I'm in a place where there's a lot of income, where there are a lot of jobs. Sometimes the finding a job is still quite a struggle, especially when you don't meet the qualifications that, other places are looking for. And I have been job searching for the past 2.5 months, and it's a full-time job that doesn't offer, it doesn't reciprocate any benefits. You can't really look for a full-time job and sustain yourself, at least not for very long. Thankfully, I had enough money in my bank account to sustain me for as many months as this has been so far. But missing 2 paychecks a month, that does start to take a toll. And it's the difficult part is that Northern Virginia is an expensive place, especially when you're unemployed. I mean, I live in one of the more reasonably priced apartments in my area, I guess, but it's still more expensive than anywhere I ever lived when I was in Ohio. So definitely a big change for me ever since I moved here. And I've had to file for unemployment, so there's a bit of another financial cushion every so often, but it's still not enough to go a very long way. And that idea of destitution is constantly lingering. And the other thing about this whole experience is, I've never really experienced a more depressing time in my life. I mean, I've never experienced something like this for so long, and at such a high capacity. And this is the kind of stress that I've never experienced before. Not that it's been more stress than I've ever experienced. It's just a different kind of stress. People have the stress of deadlines, the stress in relationships, stress that comes with bad experiences. And this is a different kind of stress for me that I've never experienced. And, getting cabin fever, being in my apartment all day, going to the library. I've had to go to the library and the cafe just to get out of my apartment, get out of that rut of just sort of staying around in one place. I've gone for walks, I've gone to the gym, and I've just been trying to keep myself busy and out of my apartment, and essentially out of my own head. Some of you who have paid attention on Instagram or Twitter have seen pictures of me in my Hiccup cosplay costume, Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon. And I have been working on that since before I lost my job back in January, but it's taken me up until the middle of April to finish it. And I've been using that I've been using that in my downtime to sort of keep my mind busy. And because when I'm not doing that, and when I'm not searching for jobs and I'm just sort of sitting around, I really get into my own head a lot. And that can be dangerous in a number of ways, and it's just the kind of thing that, if I stick around with my thoughts for too long, things do get pretty depressing. And it's tough. It is really tough to be in this kind of situation. And I'm not saying that I'm the only person who has been in this situation. I understand that there are plenty of people who have been unemployed or who have never been employed. People have been fired. People have been laid off. People whose companies went out of business and they just didn't have anywhere to go after that. And some people have had it worse than me. And I understand that, and in these kinds of situations, it's all very subjective because we all sort of reach a certain limit that we can handle. Like the first maybe month of me being unemployed, it was a very difficult time, but at the same time, I didn't so much mind, not having a job. I was like, okay, this gives me a chance to focus on more creative things that I want to do. I can go out to the store when I want. I can go see a movie if I want. And I didn't have a very restricted schedule. So it wasn't so much of a big deal for me at the time. Even though I was searching for jobs every day, I was still thinking, I'm okay if I don't get hired, next week or today or next week. It was kind of a chill time. It was one of those things where I thought, I can do some traveling and that'll be okay. And actually, the early April, I actually went to Disney World with my friends, which was a lot of fun. It was a trip we had been planning since last year, and it was a lot of fun. I'm not one for traveling on an airplane. I'd sooner go on a road trip, but it was definitely worth every experience of it, worth every minute of it. Being able to go to Disney World, going to several of the parks, and experiencing that for the first time. That was my first time ever going to Disney, and it was even better because I got to spend it with the people that I'm closest with. And it was one of those things where I had fewer cares in the world because I got to have that time to spend with people who really meant a lot to me in a place that a lot of people dub the most magical place on earth, or the happiest place on earth. I'm not sure which one that is, unless it's different between Disneyland and Disney World. But either way, after that point, it was sort of back to the grindstone looking for jobs. And I thought something has to break. I've been waiting for something. And there were places that I interviewed with that I thought, oh, this will be a perfect fit. And there were other places where I thought, this is probably going to make me miserable. But it's one of those situations where you think, well, I'm not really in much of a position to complain about where I'm applying. It's just something that has to be done. And I went as far as applying to some fast food places, and surprisingly didn't hear anything back from those places. But it's I don't know if maybe they have a rule for being overqualified, because I haven't been in the food service since I was 17, I believe, so almost 8 years ago. And it is really actually almost 9 years ago. Sorry, but it was one of those things where I had to apply to any place that sounded remotely close to what I could do for a job, what I was qualified for. And sometimes even if I meet all the qualifications, there's going to be that one person or a few other people who just happen to exceed expectations more so than myself, as far as the employer can see, and they just decide to hire those people instead of me. And I understand that it's not supposed to be anything personal, but even when when I think that I'm a perfect fit for the job, not everyone's going to see it that way. And because everyone has differing opinions and everybody thinks that they know exactly what they're looking for. And there are instances where, I feel like I'd be a perfect fit, and I feel that, if they give me a chance, that I can demonstrate how much talent I do have, how much of an asset I can be for this position. And, a phone interview, which is what most of my interviews have been, I feel like that there's so much that can be lost in translation, or so much that is still left to be said in a phone interview, that I can't really explain myself fully over the phone. I feel like if you bring somebody in person to interview, it's going to be a lot more effective. You're going to get a better idea of this person's character, and how you think they'll fit in with the rest of the employees. And unfortunately, I only had maybe of the maybe 40 or so, more than 40 interviews that I've had over the phone. The rest of them, which were probably only 3, I think I only had 3 in-person interviews. And even then, nothing came out of any of those. And you'd think that more people would do in-person interviews, though, because I feel like that makes things a lot more personal. And I get that they don't always have the time to do multiple in-person interviews, but I feel like you just get more out of it. You get a better idea of the people that you're looking to hire that could potentially be part of your workforce. So that's just my little bit of advice or recommendations to employers who are looking to hire people. Give people the benefit of the doubt a little more often, and don't assume that you can learn everything just from a phone interview, unless somebody just happens to blow it out of the water. I don't know, but I guess there was never an instance where I was blowing it out of the water, so to speak. With losing my job, obviously, I had to make a few adjustments. I had to figure out how I can sustain myself while I'm searching for a job. And like I mentioned earlier, I did file for unemployment, which again is a bit of a financial cushion. And I mean, I still get checks from YouTube ads maybe every 2 or 3 months, which isn't really a whole lot, but I mean, it's still something. It's something, and I can buy food with that paycheck, more or less. But what I also did was, if you've paid attention, if you're subscribed, I did start a Patreon about a month ago, and this was something that I was planning on doing this year at some point. I wanted to reach a certain number of subscribers first before I started this, but really losing my job is what pushed me to push this Patreon initiative forward. And I wasn't really sure how exactly to start this Patreon, but I ended up taking a page from the books of a few different YouTubers and other content creators who have Patreons, who have become successful off of Patreon, or who at least have a decent amount of supporters helping them out. Because, I mean, some of these people want to do YouTube or want to do some sort of content creation for a living. And sometimes the only way to do that is to find an additional source of income, because even YouTube ads isn't going to always provide as much money as you would be expecting, as you would need to thrive, I guess, every month. It is a little difficult to just rely on that. And so people go to other places like Kickstarter and Patreon and GoFundMe, and people get sponsorships and the kind of things that just are other sources of income, so that people can essentially make YouTube more of their main job, not just a side hobby that they do every so often. And I don't know if YouTube would ever be a full-time gig for me. It definitely can't be with the current following that I have. It's not sustainable, and I am hoping, like, I'm still, my following is still growing at a slow but gradual rate. It's consistent, but I am looking for other methods of sort of boosting my content. And, some people have said, well, now that you don't have a job, you can focus on your voice acting career and all that. And I'm sure some of these people are just joking, because as much as that would be nice, I am tens of thousands of dollars in debt from college tuition. And college tuition really kicked my butt, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. But it's not really realistic right now to just sort of drop everything and not search for an actual job, and just sort of take that jump, take that plunge, and expect myself to be able to pay for everything that I need, pay for my car, pay for food, pay for my apartment, and pay off my student loans just by focusing on YouTube, focusing on jumpstarting my voice acting career. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of friends and family offer support through prayers and sending me job openings, and some have even been kind enough, who live in the area in Virginia, have offered to let me stay with them to save money. And it really means the world to me that these people, my family, have been willing to help me out in this situation. And even my friends have been sending me job openings, and they've been sending my resume to their employers and looking for connections in any way that they can. And it's really great that I have that kind of support system. And I know that we all have this kind of support system. So if you're unemployed or seeking new employment, I mean, I would be surprised if you didn't know somebody who you could reach out to help you find a job, or at least sort of just get your name out there. Even if it's something temporary, if it's temp work or contract to hire, you never know what could come out of that. And sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise for you. But I don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, but I know that I don't want to have to move back to Ohio. I mean, in the instance that I become destitute, my first option would be, the first thing I'd have to do would be get out of my lease in my current apartment, which is kind of difficult because recently I did renew my lease, not thinking that there would be any issues like, getting laid off. But the one issue would be finding a place to live. And after getting out of my apartment lease, hopefully that wouldn't involve spending a whole lot of money, spending some sort of get out early fee. I would have to find a place to live. And again, my family in the area have offered me a place to stay. My biggest, the one thing I'm curious about is where I would put all of my stuff, because I don't think any place would have enough room for me to bring all of my crap, all of my apartment stuff, my bed, my furniture, my piano, all that kind of stuff. So, but the one thing that even I was surprised about at first was when I spoke to my parents about a month ago about, what's going to be, when am I going to reach the point where I have to move back to Ohio? Because even though that's the last thing that I want to do, it's been on my radar. It's been something that I think, if I have absolutely nowhere to go, I can't afford to live anywhere, then I'd have to go back home. Pretty much. That's what I thought. And to my surprise, even my parents said, no, that shouldn't be, you shouldn't be thinking about that right now. You should just be focusing on finding a job. Like you love the area that you're in. You like where you're living. You like working there, and you've obviously built a life for you in that place. to the point where you plan on staying there for a while. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I want to stay here. I want to continue to work here if I can. And I want to be near the friends and the relationships that I've formed here and the family that I've been able to spend more time with around here. And so I was really thankful to have that kind of support from them, as much as I'm sure that they would be thrilled to have me back at their house in Ohio. They understand that Virginia is the place that I want to be right now, and that I sort of want to continue to build myself and build sort of a foundation. And I'm not trying to make this episode a whole woe is me type of situation, because it's not my intention. And it's just losing my job has given me the opportunity to think more intently about the content that I create, and being a YouTuber and in general making content creation a bigger part of my life. And as much as I haven't been doing a lot of the video making over the past couple of months due to searching for jobs and just kind of being in a depressing place, it's still something that is very encouraging, something that while it's discouraging, it's also encouraging in the way that it gets me to think more long term, as in what I want to do and how I want to get there and how I want to start to get there. And I really think that maybe losing my job as much as it's gotten more annoying from after maybe the first month. After the first month, it's gotten a lot more annoying. The fact that I wasn't able to land a job. It was still helpful in a way to help me to gain a different perspective and figure out, okay, I want to do this more, which is again why I started my Patreon. I wanted to be able to have another way to not only benefit myself but benefit all of you. And which is why I have, the different kinds of the different tiers and the different offers that I have on my Patreon. And I fully encourage you all to at least take a look at my Patreon, and I'll have a link for that in the description, because I do offer things like getting your name mentioned in my videos, and you can receive an autographed picture of me, which I don't know who wants that, but you could even receive a custom recording message that you can use to play whenever you want. You could use it as your voicemail greeting. Either way, just take a look at my Patreon. I don't mind plugging that here, especially because it does connect to this video. And again, I know that I'm not the only person who experiences something like unemployment, or destitution, being broke, and definitely being in a lot of debt. So I encourage all of you who do happen to be in that situation, or who think you might end up being in that situation, to take some time to think about where you want to be in the next few years, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, and think about how you want to get there, and start thinking about how you should start to make those strides to eventually reach where you want to be in that time span. And always remember that you do have a support system, whether it's your family or your friends. It could be a mentor. And if you don't feel like that, if you don't feel confident about the people that you think would support you, there's always networking opportunities. I've looked into networking opportunities. I've looked into different people that I have worked with, that I've lived with, and have spoken to these people about potential job opportunities, just potential options in case things don't work out for me, I know that I have other people who are willing to sort of lend a hand, and I don't expect anybody to focus all of their time and effort on finding me a job, and I wouldn't want them to do that. But it is nice though that these people are willing to take some time out of their week to just see what's out there and sort of keep you in mind, and basically make a little bit of an effort, and I'd love to be able to repay these people in some way, and I'm sure I will have the opportunity to do that. But I mean, we'll still have to see where everything takes me, where YouTube's going to take me, where my potential next job is going to take me. And again, I really want to focus more on my YouTube content creation, be able to take more opportunities as they come to work with content creation, to use my voice, to use my video editing skills and my audio editing skills, and just provide content that is going to be enjoyable for other people. So, I mean, if you happen to have a voice project that you need a voice for, or if you know somebody who does, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, I have my business email available on my YouTube channel. It has changed. It's no longer gingersnapvo@gmail. It is danieljferguson.biz at gmail.com, danieljferguson.biz@gmail.com. So if you're looking for a voice or a number of voices, or if you know somebody who is, I'm all for side projects, anything that will get me some experience, anything that I could use in a potential resume or a portfolio, just to show that I am, to demonstrate that I am working on my voice work, and that I am making some strides to get more experience, whether it's volunteer or paid, either one. I want to thank you all for having a listen to this podcast. I'll probably give a name to this at some point. It's not going to be Voices in My Closet anymore. I think I'm done with that style of the podcast talk show thing that I did. I want to sort of start from scratch, I think, and try something different. So we'll see how this goes. I do like being able to talk to all of you without having to necessarily show my face, even though I'm sure some of you would like to see me on video. And you'll still see me through videos, because I'm still releasing YouTube videos. I'm not done with that quite yet. But thank you again for listening. I hope that you see this as me sort of sharing a little bit more of a personal side with all of you, and hopefully you'll appreciate that, and not see it so much as a pity me and give me sympathy type of thing. I certainly don't mean to do any of that, but I guess I'll figure out what my next topic's going to be, and you'll hear from me in the next few weeks. But until then, stay classy. I'll need to find a way to sign off on this, but stay classy, crazy kids.